Test, test. All right. I think all right. Are we all right? Yep. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, good morning. All right, we'll see how we can get going. You know, I have found, technology-wise, it's not about, we watch so many things and look at things and you're like, oh, they make that look so easy. You would think it was, but there are so many moving parts to get us going at 9 o'clock in the morning sometimes. It feels like a challenge. I want to welcome everybody here this morning. And give me 1 second. We will get started with a word of prayer. Takes me a while to get myself going in the morning. Oh, and glasses would help. All right. Let's begin with a word of prayer. Sorry. Dear Heavenly, most gracious Father, we are so thankful, dear Father, that we're able to come together this morning and we can look at your word. As we look at community, dear Father, I just pray, dear Father, that you open our hearts and our minds. You know, as we look at strengths and weaknesses today, dear Father, I just pray that the conversations that we have and the thoughts that we have, we learn together how to be a stronger body, how we be a stronger community, how we build each other up, how we accept different roles as we come across them, but more importantly, dear Father, how we aid others in navigating through all of these obstacles that life has to put in front of us, dear Father. I pray for those who are struggling with their health, and I pray for those who are struggling with their faith. And we just pray, dear Father, that as a body that we reach out to them. We show them that God is a loving God. The church is a loving church, and that together we can bring peace and we can show them the pathway to hope. And we are so thankful, dear Father, for everyone that's here this morning. And we just pray that our words are meaningful and they have purpose and that they have change in our lives. It's in your Son's holy name we do pray. Amen. Well, hopefully this is not a sign because the one thing of notes I had on my phone aren't there. But that's okay. You know, I've been thinking about this a lot. Oops. You know, you wouldn't, I guess that's how you know if you've ever, not that I'm a preacher, I don't want to sound like that, but they never can work the remote. You know, we've been talking about community, and last week, this is where we were talking about how do I discern between my path and God's path, and we were talking about taking an inventory of our lives. And we looked at Dave Ramsey, and why do we look at him? Only because of his Financial Peace University, and how can we apply that to the community that we're talking about? And in the illustration that we used last week, we looked at an inventory of our time, and we were specific about it. And why were we specific? Because if you're vague, vagueness is where all of those lies we tell ourselves start to, fill in all the gaps, so to speak. Vagueness with your money is like, I make a lot of money, where did it all go? And the same can be with our relationship with God. It can be like, I spend so much time with God, why do I not feel close to God? I spend a lot of time with the church, I don't feel close to the church. Then if I look at my time, is there a discrepancy between my words and my action? Because so often there is. I spend so much time with my church family. Well, If I looked at it over the last week, over the last month, is that what it shows? Not judging anybody, not saying anything. I am saying, though, if I want to be closer to God, I need to be closer to his family. Then I'm going to skip because we have 4 points for today. And one of the points came up yesterday. So you bear with me. There we go. We got 4 thoughts for the day that I want to get through. One is, what kind of impact do I have on those I encounter during my week? Because if anything, you get anything out of this, it's how do I think about how I interact with people on a daily basis? Because, well, I wouldn't say there's something always broke. We're not always fixed. We don't always do the things that we should. You know, I'm going to stay on track. I get off on tangents so easily. If I keep doing what I'm doing, am I finding success or failure? That doesn't always say something about you, doesn't always say something about your message, but sometimes it does. And it's not, hey, doubt myself. It is thinking, am I being the most effective at whatever I'm doing? Keep that. And then the last one, the only person right now that'll get this is Christy. Am I a long-haired weirdo? That is as important a part of this lesson as any. But we're going to start here. How does God's power is revealed in our limitations? Now you may be asking, why is this? Well, you know, my dad's not here this morning. My dad fell on Thursday. And I know that when he falls, it is not only devastating for him both physically, but it's also devastating emotionally. And I know that because he did something so well, I am jealous of it. That he instilled in me so many of his traits. You know, when I graduated high school and I was in college, I worked at Super Saver, and I made $4.25 an hour. I told my kids, they'd be like, well, that's back when y'all drove cars without air conditioning, which is true, but $4.25 is not a lot of money. $4.25 doesn't go very far. And the sad part is, people live off of that now. But my dad instilled one thing in me. You make $4.25, you work hard at $4.25. Doesn't make any difference what you make. It has to do with your character. If I could instill anything in my boys, well, not anything, but if I could instill that in them, of your character matters. People see your character. They see you work hard. Matters. Isaiah 40, 27 through 31. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my God? I'm going to skip down a little bit because first I want to get all 4 points in. But he gives power to the faint, and to him who has might increases strength. Even youth shall faint and grow weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. That is describing us to a T. We do get tired. We do fall. We fall because we're physical. We fall because we make mistakes. But that doesn't have to define who we are. That's exactly what God tells us. He says, that doesn't have to define you because I got you. I've got you when things are good. I got you when things are bad. I'm here for you. I don't move. Even though your body's going to fail, I don't move, and that is a promise. You know, I forgot. Probably everybody's done it at some point. You do these little trust falls. Who hadn't done one? In fact, if you haven't, I can do a demonstration real quick of what my example is going to be. We'll just get anybody up here. What I should do is I will fall, and then will you come up and catch me? Well, Pat, will you come up and catch me? So often that's the way we treat God, isn't it? I'm going to fall, God. Well, in this example, Christy fell. She wasn't really excited about it, but she fell, and I caught her. Then she said, my turn. I did not fall. I did not pretend to fall. I may have done this. I didn't trust. It's not that I didn't trust that she wanted to catch me. I didn't think she could. And we treat God that way sometimes. That I am in a place that even God couldn't help me. And that is not the case. That's not what we see in Isaiah. Psalms, my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is strength of my heart and my portion forever. That is a promise. If we went back to the question, how is God's power revealed in our limitations? It's ever the fact of this, if the only thing I do is emit strength, and that's what everybody sees, I never give anybody the opportunity to help me. Because I say to the world, and I really am saying it to God, I got this all by myself. I'm not going to show you who I am because I got this. And why? Because I'm strong, and I'm a man, and that's the way men are. And that's why I love my dad so much. Because even if his body's failing him, he is still so strong because he has the body of Christ to build him up. He said, this is what I worked my whole life for. And that's what we work our whole life for. But we also work so that we can allow others to become strong. I think of it like this. I wish I could put notes down and remember what I say in my thoughts half the time. But I thought of it like this. In this little community that I have as my physical family, my dad was that cornerstone. But think of it like this. If he let it stay there of, I'm the cornerstone and that's it. Everybody else you're going to build on top of me. How strong of a house would we build if the only thing we did is start stacking on top of it? It wouldn't be long before you would see we have something that doesn't serve anybody's purpose because we have a block that may be as strong as all get out. But if anything happens to it, everything else falls apart. But if we build others up to be as strong as we are, if we build our families up, our children up, our spouses up to where they're as strong as we are, and we build together this foundation of a family, all built off of God and Jesus, there is nothing that can stop us. And that's why I love my dad. Now, we're going to skip a little bit. Now, I've said many times, I think God does come and plant himself in my life. I do. I know that not everybody believes that. But I'm going to tell you about my week. And if it doesn't align with our Bible study, I'll eat my hat. Well, I'll go get a hat of your choice. What kind of impact do I have on those I encounter during the week? You will not hear something in this next part that makes me look bad or good. Has nothing to do about me at all, in fact. And I want you to understand the first step is don't underestimate the power of small things. One of the greatest things, and I'm not saying this to make myself look good, I promise. The greatest thing I was ever able to do for Mason was pay his student loan off. Because his burden, I felt his burden. To him, that is what I would consider a big thing. And that's how we look so often. I'm looking for something big. I want to do something big in your life. I want to be impactful. You know how much power is in mowing somebody's lawn. You know how much power is in, hey, you know what? My car doesn't work and you showed up to take me to work. And that's really going to play into this next part. Because that does allow us to do big things. Matthew 10, whoever receives you receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me. The one who receives a prophet because of he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And the one who receives a righteous person because he is a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And whoever gives one of these little ones even a cup of water because he is a disciple, truly I say to you, by no means lose his reward. Something simple as a cup of water. For whoever despised the day of small things shall rejoice and shall see the plumb line of the hand of Zerubbabel. I won't lie here. This next part, I had to go look this up because I was curious. This is all setting the stage, really, for where we're going, but what's going on here? They're building a wall, but it's not going as fast. In fact, they're building a wall, it's not going as fast, and it doesn't look as fancy as what the people thought it should. They're like, we have an idea. It's too modest. It's not what we're expecting. They doubted, and that God said, you're going to celebrate. Now, I apologize. I'm still going fast because I'm going to run out of time. What do I like more than anything? I like maps. You know why? Because y'all all came and said you liked my map. So shame on you. Who recognizes where we are right here? Well, I'll help you out here. This has nothing to do with God's path and our path, by the way. We're up here at Walmart in South I-44. Does everybody recognize where we're at? This is last Sunday. And this is Mason on his way home from church last Sunday. His little tiny car and this gigantic, well, it felt gigantic, Cadillac SUV hit him on the side, right there off of that service road by I-44. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, probably. In somebody's great wisdom, they put a little square out there that means nothing to anybody. So I talked to Mason. I said, I'll be right there. I said, you call the police. If you did something wrong, we'll deal with that. If you broke the law and get a ticket, we'll deal with that. But let's just deal with it. We're over here in God's lane, if we're going back to that analogy. This is what happens to everybody sometimes, is something happens in life. And you end up here. I was proud of myself, I will say the first words that came out of my mouth, are you okay? I didn't do the thing I thought I would probably always do and say, was it your fault? He was okay. But this happens to people in life. And I told him, you know what? We'll get past this. We are so blessed. And you know how blessed I am? We have an extra car. And if we didn't, we could get a rental car. And we could do that because that is an option we have. Not everybody has that option, I told him. And I hope he recognizes that. He has an option because we had a spare car. What if he didn't? What if he's a mom? He works with the lady, in fact. She's a mom with kids at home, no husband. She makes what he makes. And I'm like, how do you make what he makes, pay for a home, your children, you raise all of these things? This happens. This would be so discouraging because you're like, I can't afford a rental car. Yeah, you'll reimburse me. What a great promise that is. I don't have any money. I would feel so despaired because I'm in line with God. But man, the world's beating me down. And if I just get over here for a second, I can catch my breath. I get in this access road. I'm kind of aligned with God, and I'm kind of not, because I got to do something, don't I? What kind of impact do I have on those I encounter during the week? I go back to this. Here's all of the ways this plays into our conversation that we're having about community. First off, it didn't surprise me at all that the lady didn't think it was her fault. She said, I was making a left-hand turn, and he turned his signal on. Well, he did. There just happens to be 2 right-hand turns. In fact, after Mason told me, he goes, I didn't stop at the stop sign. I didn't stop right there. And I go, I don't know if you have to. I said, exactly this way. I guess we'll find out. The police officer came back. He said, nope, you don't have a stop sign. He said, it's just the worst intersection in the world. Whoever came up with it had lost their mind. She thought he's turning right here. No, he's turning right up there. She hit him, and that's where we were. Then I dealt with insurance. Not any surprise there. They're trying to make the claim go away. Here's where the surprises came in, and here's where it plays into all of this. So I called my neighbor. I use the word neighbor very loosely there because they are somebody that lives in close proximity to me. I know their names if I go look up how to spell it, but we don't have a real connection. And coming up with one is difficult sometimes because you don't have anything to connect with. He's a police officer, though, it turns out. So I said, you know what? It has nothing to do with me trying to build community. It had everything for me trying to get information. Because up to that point, if you know anything about me, I like being planned. If I'm going on vacation, I want to know where we're going to stay, how we're going to get there, what are we going to do when we get there. If we're going to go see something, I want to pay for it ahead of time because I don't want to get there and find out I went to Wally World and it's closed. So I called my neighbor. I have the best opportunity I could have ever imagined to have a different relationship with my neighbor now for two reasons. One is not only they gave me the phone number to call, said you call that number, you tell them what you want, they'll print it off so it's ready when you get there. The second thing was that very day, someone hit their car in Chick-fil-A and left. I thought, what kind of moment this is now that, remember that day when you got hit by a car and he got hit by a car, your guy left, this one doesn't want to pay for it. You know, we have a chance to make our relationship different if it's all up to me now. And that's the way we all are. We have people we live in close proximity to. I work in close proximity to. How do I build a relationship? We look for something. Otherwise, they're always going to be the people living next door to me that their lifestyle is not my lifestyle, and that's where I left it. And if I stand before God one day and they say, why didn't you say anything to him? I have no excuse because I do have an opportunity. I have an opportunity to build a relationship with somebody that I know. Now, that's not the biggest surprise of my week, though. So I called the police department. And if you know anything about me, too, you know names are tough. I have if you don't think they are, ask Stan. I looked at Stan's face and, well, there was Stan. It happened to me with Myron once, too. I saw Myron, could not remember Myron's name. I can remember this person named Jill. Jill answered the phone. I told her what was going on. And she said, okay, hold on for 1 sec. And she put me on hold. I'm like, that's not what I expect. I expect somebody to answer the phone who's got a lot of things to do. They're busy. And I would expect it to feel like, you're busy, I'm an annoyance, you just want me to go away. Give me the info and we'll move on. That's what I expected. Something next to automated, but just a little bit more rude. And she paused and she said, first let me go look and see if it's here. I didn't even know that was a thing. And she said, yep. Well, I almost missed the funniest part. She goes, what's the incident number? And I gave it to her, and then I got to the end. I go, it's 56, and I think that's a 3. And she goes, you know what? There is nobody that's got worse handwriting than doctors and police officers. And she goes, you're not a doctor, are you? I go, no, I'd probably care less who hit my kid's car if I was a doctor. But she was funny. She interjected something. We were having a conversation. She was kind. She said, I'll print it out. She told me what to expect. She told me the address. But still in my head, you know what I'm expecting? Trouble. I'm going into a public building. I expect everything to be a hassle. I expect the people to be rude. I don't expect anything good. Why? First, I'm there because my kid's car's messed up. They don't want to pay for it. I was shocked that they said they don't get police reports. So I go down there to get the police report. Jill shattered first part of my imagination of what I was going to expect at the police department. I get there, and it's what you'd expect first off. Bulletproof glass, and a square room about the size of a square of one of these pews. Not very big. Not very warm and inviting. I walked in, I got the paper, filled it out, and then I went over and I gave it to the lady. And she was like, she corrected one mistake, and she said, now see initial here. And I said, okay. And she goes, that'll be 75 cents. I said, I have a debit card or a 20. And she's like, I don't care, whatever you like. And I hand her the 20. And then she goes, you don't think you're getting this back, do you? And I go, it's like we're married. It just came out. All of a sudden, we're having this thing between us that I didn't even expect. She made me laugh. I didn't expect that. She came back and she said, here's your change. She goes, my husband would have never said that. I go, well, I would have never told my wife that. She shattered everything I thought about what was about to happen. Then I looked at the police report, and it's like, yes, she made an improper left-hand turn. And I looked at Mason's side, and it said he didn't have anything to do with it, or whatever, however they word it. But I wasn't sure. I didn't trust it. So I went over to the other window. Better opportunity. 2 police officers. They'll be rude, I bet. They were talking. They stopped talking the instant I walked up, handed him the piece of paper and explained what I was just curious about. He read the thing, and all of my worries went away because he was so pleasant. He said, that's exactly what it was. He said, no insurance companies like to pay. How does this relate to us? There are people out there that have a preconceived idea of what we are as a body, as a church. Sometimes that is our problem because we did it. We showed people that, well, somebody did something, I didn't like it, so I consider myself part of the body even though I went somewhere else. I don't consider that being the proper way to handle a problem, but people see that and they say, oh, the first sign of a problem, you just go someplace else. Sometimes my actions don't live up to what I say. People see that in the church. Do you have to do something big to change people's opinion of it? No, you don't. Being kind to people when they're not expecting it is huge. Christy told me when she started at Paycom and they moved her to a different department for garnishments, one of the people that worked there with her knew she went to church, and he walked up to her and said, hi, I'm black and gay. I'm like, she has befriended him and the people she had around her so much by doing just little things and treating them like people. Because so many people treat them like garbage, like they're useless. And they don't mean to, it's just the words and the phrases that they use that makes them feel less of a person. We do that with older people. I go back to my dad and how much I love him and how much he has shown me and how much strength he has. This is the long-haired part of it. I'm going to tell you 2 stories that go along with this. One story happened in the 1980s, though, but it leads to the second story. A friend of mine took some friends from, and I'm playing really loose with the story, took some friends from Oklahoma Christian with them for Thanksgiving to their home. That is a really exciting part. If you ever haven't, is to go experience Thanksgiving or something with other cultures, other people, how they do it. You're like, wow, we don't do it that way. This is kind of cool. Or, ooh, that's kind of weird. They went there. They had a good time. They're only there for Thursday through Sunday afternoon. And she said how disheartening it was, though. They came home, and someone thought she should know that I am so glad I will never send my kid to Oklahoma Christian. And why? Because one of her friends had long hair and looked like a hippie. What kind of church school would let you in there looking like that? That's what they got out of his visit. What did they get out of his visit? Let's see, I'm striving for a higher education. I went to a Christian university, and you don't go to a Christian university because it's cheap. I went there because I'm trying to impact a difference in something. I thought something was different there. Then I went there, I had a pleasant visit, and someone didn't like my hair. That is a real story. That is real Christians saying, I think you need to know, I think you're gross because your hair looks funny. You know, it would only be for effect, and it would, in fact, it'd be wrong even to do it. But if I was standing here in a dress, you would hear nothing I had to say this morning probably because I'm standing here in a dress. Now, if I were doing it to make a point, that's one thing. People don't have long hair always to make a point. People don't have earrings to always make a point. We need to look past people sometimes to see people. Otherwise, I am so hung up on what I see that I never get to who you are. One person's can undo everything every single person here did in a day. We could have somebody come in here and have the best experience. And if I run out there in the parking lot and catch them before they leave, I can ruin all of that by making them feel less of a person. I could go out there and make sure they know, hey, come back next week if you don't want to go to hell, because we'll be here next week. Well, gee, thanks. My dad fell on Thursday, and he went to the ER. And I didn't go this time because Dina said she was taking Mom, and I was like, okay. It was in the month, and I made excuses. And I feel bad, too, really, especially because of what happened. They went to Baptist. And I hope somebody from Baptist is watching. And I hope you're embarrassed by the story. He went there, and the ER was full. And I would say they took care of him in record time. By the time Mom got there, they'd already done a CT scan. They were doing stitches. They put 7 stitches in his head. It was phenomenal. If we were using this analogy, all of y'all did a great job. We had visitors. Y'all did such a great job. Then he's going to the car. And it makes me so mad. Because all he had to do was go to the bathroom. And he told the person when they're in the room, but they don't listen because they are so caught up in all of these things they got to do. It's kind of like if I am so caught up, I got to see every visitor. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is, how do I interact with Mike when I'm interacting with Mike? And how do I interact with Audrey when I'm interacting with Audrey? If I'm talking to Audrey, but I'm really over here thinking about somebody else, what have I done? If I'm not careful, Audrey will figure it out. And Audrey will be like, I don't even know if he's talking to me. He certainly wasn't listening to me. It's like being on a conference call that they're like, well, we're not going to get to Project XYZ. And then 10 minutes later, somebody says, hey, how about Project XYZ? Where are we at? You weren't even listening. You're not part of what's going on. He just had to go to the bathroom. And they get to the door to go out to the car. And he's like, I got to go to the bathroom before we leave. He's like, I sure wish you would have told me that before you left the room. I did. You didn't listen to me. He's like, we passed all these other bathrooms. Why didn't you? Who cares? You're here to give someone care, not belittle them and berate them because they're inconvenient to you. If I find a soul out there inconvenient, I need to examine myself. And do I put off that vibe when I come to people? When people come and visit Southwest, is that what they feel? And if you don't examine yourself, you will never know. You will just assume everything is great. And it may be great, and it may not be great. That guy may have gone back and been like, you know what? That was such a pain. And everybody be like, yep, you know how old people are. They're pains. He forgot what it was to treat people with humanity, to treat people with kindness. If you pick up nothing else, how do I impact those I come into? You're kind. Are the people at the police department Christian men and women? I have no idea. Did they impact my life and my week? They sure did, because I was so discouraged. I talked to a lady at an insurance company that said, basically, I have no plan on paying your claim. Our client said she wasn't her fault, and that's as far as we plan on going. And I was so mad. And someone diffused that instantly because they were kind. They treated me like a person. When someone walks in here, do we treat them like people? How do we see them? How do they feel? Do they feel seen? Kindness is the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. Kindness is so important. And not because I want to change who you are. I don't I'm not looking to be like, the second I meet Mark, I'm not, how do I get Mark baptized in a church every Sunday? No, I start off with, man, I understand you're going through something. How can I help? Don't care about any of this other stuff yet, because that's not Mark's problem right now, and maybe it is. Maybe Mark's problem is my car's broke. Maybe the wheels fell off. Maybe he had an accident and he doesn't have a car. Maybe I can help. Maybe I know someone that can help. Maybe I'm a neighbor to somebody. I can say, not only do I have the phone number, here's what you do step by step. Let me calm your anxiety. How often can we calm people's anxiety? You know, I kind of go back to the illustration of my dad, or any of us. If we don't build people up to where they're part of the same foundational thing that we are, if we always are just covering for people, we never give them a chance to be stronger. I almost think of it as Hulk Hogan. You know, he has an entire industry surrounded by his image and what he was. You know what that's worth now? Well, it's going to be worth something for a little while because it's collectible stuff, but everything was built off of a physical person over here that's now dead. And sooner or later, he'll be like Elvis, he'll be like Michael Jackson, he'll be like all these others. You're just another person that used to be here, that used to be something, that's now nothing. Now, is that me? Or am I now something because I had Jesus Christ? Is this the thing that is this where I'm at now, leading up to what I've lived my life for? I sure hope it does. And when I say that, I hope, it's not, well, am I living my life right? Am I living my life wrong? It's, am I doing the best job that I can? You know, we were talking yesterday, because the one thing I don't know how to convey sometimes in a class, and I don't know how to convey it to myself, is, oh, there we go. Sorry. Told you, you gotta have friends in this class if you want to see my hand. Yes, Jack. Well, that's not a surprise either. Have you met my mom? Mm-hmm.
The second one is our reputation. Most people form an opinion on somebody just by the way they look. And once they form that opinion, it's gone. I mean, there's not much you can do after that. But you have to be compassionate with people, even if you hate them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my worst enemies, I have told them I love them, and they don't believe it to this day. And you founder when you dawdle too long trying to solve a problem, when if you'll just go head on in it and fix the problem that was created. We all have to love one another, whether we like it or not. If I'm talking to somebody on the phone, I've been on hold for 2 hours, and I never once got mad. And when I started talking to the person, the first thing out of my mouth was, "You sound lovely, maybe you can help me." And they helped me from the kind remarks. Whenever you go in to people that are servants, everyone you just talked about, if you show kindness to them, they'll flip over backwards for you.
To kind of reiterate what Jack was saying, you know, and I'm going to paraphrase a lot, but one of the things is once people have formed an opinion of something, whether that's the church, whatever, it is very hard sometimes to change people's opinion of that. Does that mean we stop trying? No. Does that mean I don't show you kindness even though I know you don't believe it? No. And Do we show kindness to some people? Jack said, and I'll probably get it wrong. Do we show kindness to people that don't deserve it and don't appreciate it and probably don't even want it? And the answer is always yes. Because sometimes it has zero to do with them, and it has everything to do with you. And why? Because you became a stronger person because you overcame somebody that was hostile. You overcame somebody that didn't deserve help because they're a bad person. We'll just say it that way. Whatever. You overcame it and you saw them for something that you didn't see before. I said a second ago, if I stand before God one day and I never said something to my neighbor, that is on me. I have every opportunity now. And I also have every opportunity to show kindness and gentleness and a loving spirit to everyone I come into contact with. I don't have to always be trying to change their opinion of the church. I don't have to change their opinion of God. I can just change their opinion in me. And if I change their opinion in me, then maybe they'll change their opinion of the church. Maybe they'll change their opinion of God. But if I look at them and say, well, they don't like the church, they don't like God, they're certainly not going to like me, then I lost before I started. I want to thank y'all for being here this morning. But I really do think, Mason had a wreck, yeah. Are we getting around it? Yes. He wasn't hurt, and I am so thankful. But it opens my eyes to all of the opportunities I have to either be kind or to act like a fool to people. I could have gotten up there and made sure those people knew, because Mason was outnumbered. He's a kid. Here's a car full of adults and grown-ups, for lack of a better word, but he handled it so well. He called the police just because I was worried that he didn't know, first off, to call the police. Second off is, there's a lot of things going on you can miss out on because you don't have a wreck every day. This experience doesn't happen to you every day. Find somebody that does have experience, somebody that can help you. In this case, it was the police officer, but that could have just been as easily in this scenario or this example, someone from the church, because while it doesn't happen to you every day, it might happen to them every day. You know? And that is so much value, because the connection I have with my neighbor, I would now have with somebody in this body. And wow, that is powerful. Because part of the message that I didn't get out was, if we're not careful, especially as fathers, and another reason I love my dad, his religion didn't stay there. I don't look at the church as that's dad's thing. I look at it as my thing, and I want that to be my kids' thing. I want them to have their own belief. I want them to have their own faith. And I can't understate the power that has when that's what you instill in people. So thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. And sorry, Jack, I don't know how I could miss you over there either, because you are a figure of figures. So, or are you just saying that because the people around you didn't want to speak? So you're the speaker. Well, y'all have a great rest of your morning.